If you are new to scales, or if you've been learning them, you have not seen the benefits from all the work you've been putting in, I'm going to share the reasons why practicing scales on the guitar is the best way to increase your dexterity, your understanding of the fretboard, your knowledge of music, and your performance on the guitar. I'm Lee from Play Guitar Academy. I help frustrated guitar players get back to getting better at the guitar. Did you ever wonder how your favorite guitar players come up with these fantastic sounding guitar solos? Here's the reason. The reason is they know how to use their scales in more ways than just going up and down the pattern. In this video, I'm going to share with you my top 5 reasons why you should always practice your guitar scales. If you play jazz or country, rock, pop, metal, if you play show tunes, you play elevator music, jingles, I don't care what you play, scales are going to help you big time. Plus, once we've covered why practicing scales on guitar matters, I'm going to show you a super cool secret that's an easy tip to ignite your musicianship, and it's going to throw gasoline on your progress as you practice your guitar scale patterns. Here's reason number 1. Scales set you up for success. Let me ask you a question. What came first? Was it the chicken or was it the egg? Got no answer for that. But in music, we do have an answer. The scale always comes first. Chords come second. Why is that? Because chords are made up from scale notes. So the better you understand scales, the better equipped you're going to be to understand chords, chord construction, and chord progressions. Scales make up 2/3 of what we call the musical triangle. If you think about it, a solid musical idea or a solid performance, it has to do with melody, harmony, and rhythm. Melody and harmony both rely on scales at their core. If you think about it, the DNA of music, Western music, not country and Western music, the DNA is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's the formula for a major scale. It's like the Kevin Bacon game of music. You can do anything and boil it back down to that formula. Just think of how it would be able to be to listen to a piece of music and understand it and know what you're listening to be able to know the relationship and the structure of scale and non-scale notes just from hearing it, and then to be able to use those ideas in your own playing and composing. That's powerful stuff, and understanding scales will get you there very, very quickly. The number 2 reason why you would want to practice scales on the guitar is to get out of the copycat rut. If you're there, if you're starting to understand music and you're practicing scales on the guitar, you made your first steps towards freedom. What's the big lie? The big guitar lie is what everyone is doing right now. They're following everyone right down the drain. And that's that you have to know how to play exactly like a certain song. And the more of these songs that you can mimic, the better player you are. That's crazy. This isn't a competition to play just like everyone else. We want to become an artist, not a copy machine. My favorite guitar players, the ones I've been listening to and trying to play similar to for a long time, probably couldn't copy anyone very well. And that's why they sound so good. That's why they sound like themselves. The more you understand how scales work and the more you can see them on the neck of the guitar, the more you can learn and the more your own ideas will start to flow. Notes are your words and licks are like your sentences. Use them to say something. Hey, before we move on, if you are finding value in this video, I ask you to give it a thumbs up. It really makes a huge difference. The 3rd reason why you might want to practice your scales is technique. I got a question. How's your physical playing going? Are you struggling with playing single notes? Do your hands hurt? Are your wrists sore? Regular scale practice can make all of the difference. At some point, I transition my students away from regular technique exercises, and then I put them into scale work. Why is that? Because using scales for technique exercises is a very, very efficient use of your time. What do you get to work on with that? You work on hand-eye coordination. You work on your dexterity. You work on building your ear. You work on phrasing, learning strong and weak notes. You work on your 5 positions, and you work over playing over chord changes. All that from just 5 minutes of practicing your scales up and down over a backing track. You can also use something called sequences. Practicing breaking up your scales in a very systematic way as a warm-up is great, but doing it with sequences makes it effortless to use these fantastic melodic devices in your everyday improv and your everyday composition. Well, what are they? What are sequences? It's when you break up the scale going up a certain amount and then back some. It's a way to create interest out of something that's not very interesting. I have a whole course that introduces scale sequences and how great they are for you over at Play Guitar Academy. Let's move on to number 4. The fourth reason why you might want to practice your scales is visual reinforcement. What are we really doing when we're playing guitar? What would somebody say that we were doing if they didn't know what the guitar was, if they just saw us playing? They might say that we're using our fingers to create shapes and to create patterns across some metal wires, and these shapes and patterns represent some sounds, and then we bang the wires with a piece of plastic. So these shapes and these patterns that represent different sounds, these are the most important part of that process. The more familiar we are with those shapes and those patterns, the more skilled we are with our wire instrument. Something really cool happens when you finally master your scale patterns on the guitar. When you can play these scales on autopilot, it frees you up. It frees your mind from the stress of trying to remember these things. You can be thinking what you're going to have for lunch. You could be thinking about what you're going to go do later. But what if you use that extra brain time to look at and listen to what you are doing? You start to see very easily how chord shapes and scale patterns overlap. The chord, the arpeggio tones, they jump out at you as you start to play it up and down your scales. It's an aha moment. See, I get it now. It's all the same thing. There's just stronger or weaker notes across the scales, and the chord tones are the stronger notes. My last reason why you should be practicing guitar scales is to master the fretboard. The truth is that no matter where your hand is on the neck of the guitar, you have everything that you need under your fingers. You have all of your chords, you have all of your scales. It takes a little bit of work to get there, but when you do, everything opens up. Instead of constantly dealing with limitations, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, you start to deal with possibilities. Scale work unlocks this. Being able to play your scales on autopilot is how you're going to be able to master the fretboard, even for rhythm guitar players. These notes and scales, they're not something foreign to rhythm guitar players. They are what builds your chords. And the more you know about them, the better you're going to be able to master your chords. Earlier in the video, I said, I'm going to share with you my favorite secret tip to practicing scales. Super simple, but not many people do this. It's called holding out the strong notes. So if you're practicing your scales going up and down and you accentuate, you start and end on the tonic note, the strongest note, you're going to be constantly embellishing the tonal center, and you'll have a visual representation of that note across the fretboard. The guitar isn't neat and orderly. Our scale patterns don't always start and end on the tonic, so you have to do a little thinking. What you do with the other notes before and after your tonic note, after you rest on that, you can go down to them, but make sure to come back up to your tonal center so you end on the strong note. You can do this with any of the strong notes, the third or the fifth or even the seventh, with really, really good results. Your progress with your ear and your fretboard knowledge will start to speed up considerably. Let me show you how this works. Let's go ahead and play the lowest C major scale pattern that we have on the guitar. That's pattern 5. The lowest note we have is a G. And what we want is we want to start this on a C and end it on a C. So where's our C note? It's on the A string at the 3rd fret. Now on the top string, our last note is an A. That's not what we want. Well, where's the C? There's our C. It's at the 5th fret on the G string. So we really have one octave of the C major scale and some notes above and some notes below. When you practice your scales, start on the tonic note, the C. I start on the C and I go up to the next C and I rest on it. I let it ring. Then I play all the other notes and come back to that note. Right? And then back to the low C, and then I'll hit the other notes. So the whole thing. let's do pattern 2. So then there's our next octave C. We go up to the next one. Now on the high string, we end with a D. We have a D that we can go to. So we'll use the same formula for that. We'll start off on C and let the next octave ring out. Then we'll go again. And then we'll play the notes that are extra and come back. And go back. So if you practice your scales that way, you'll always be able to go back to the very strongest note. Your ear's going to hear that, and it will make all the other notes get in line. You'll be able to hear whether they're strong or weak. Play it over a backing track. It'll be fun. Now, if you're interested in taking the next step and getting the benefit of practicing scales, I suggest using my Big 4 Scale worksheet. It's the patterns you need to play over the vast majority of popular songs. I have them all there. I've got them in the key of E for you. It's just a quick worksheet, but you can click the link in the description below. It's going to make your life super easy. So go ahead and grab those scale patterns. I hope you got a lot out of this video. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon in the next video.